I request each and everyone to please mute themselves. I especially welcome the team of supporters for the event: Rotaract Club, Innerville Club, District 303, Holistic Foods Private Limited, Odigos Hub, Live Pure, Deserts and More, and Sumeru Education Society. I also welcome the officials from our title sponsors for the event, Trupti Udyog and Rotaract Club, Innerville Club, District 303, Holistic Foods Private Limited, Odigos Hub, Live Pure, Deserts and More, and Sumeru Education Society. I also welcome the officials from our title sponsors for the event, Trupti Udyog and I request to take over the charge. Sanket Sanuke.
Yeah, hello. Am I audible? Hello. Nandini, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so today I would like to introduce first of all our special guest, that is Dr. Asna Suroj ma'am. So I will quickly introduce a ma'am. The ma'am is a chairperson of the postgraduate department of studies in food science and nutrition, University of Mysore, India. Her areas of research interests are diabetes, starch digestibility, glycemic responses, natural antioxidants, chemistry and applications, anti-hyperglycemic and hypolipidemic effects of medical plants, disease-specific food formulations, and women's health and nutritional issues. She has completed over 14 research projects funded by UGC, DST, MHRD, and BBSRC UK. She serves as a reviewer and editor for several national and international journals. She has 193 research papers published in review journals and over 4,047 citations, and H index of 30s, I-10 index of 72, and 18 candidates have completed PhD, while 8 are still working. She is a recipient of a prestigious Dr. Kalpana Chawla State Award for Women's Young Scientists. Professor G.S. Binus Lifetime Achievement Award in 2011, bestowed by Association of Food Scientists and Technologists, and Dr. Rajmal Devadas Orientation Award, conferred by National Society of India for her outstanding achievements and contributions in nutritional sciences. She has also received Young Scientist Awards and a 44 Best Paper Awards. She was the first president of Indian Dietetic Association, Mysore chapter, and a member of Registered Dietitian Board of India Dietetic Association. She has been a member of FSSI Committee of Functional Foods and currently in the working of group of HFS, that is high fat sugar and salt, and FOPL, that is front of pack labeling. During deputation of deputy registrar in the University of Mysore, she has been responsible in establishing in human ethics committee and IPR cell. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to our Nutri Talk 2020.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, we would like to hear something
Hello,
from you.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We would like to hear something. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, at the outset, a very good evening to everyone. And I thank Health Ospec, particularly Ms. Nandini Desai, for having contacted me to participate in this program. I congratulate the team of young, maybe there are nutritionists and other entrepreneurs in this online platform who have taken up this job to disseminate information for the benefit of the common man and also for the professionals, working professionals in nutrition and dietetics area. And today's topic, that is functional food development, wherein Dr. Asim Dattaroy from Norway will be delivering. It is a topic very close to my heart, I should say, because we are also involved in the development of many functional, disease-specific functional foods. And I come from Mysore University, as has been introduced. Uh, and I'm very happy to say that our department was established 50 years ago, and this year we completed 50 years of existence. And my department is known for its strengths in teaching and research, particularly in community nutrition and clinical nutrition. As mentioned, I have been working in the area of diabetes and or cardiovascular diseases and NCDs in general. And my team is regularly involved in development of disease specific functional foods. Now, the development of functional foods from concept to reality, it is a very long journey. It involves many stages, right from the concept to successful launching of the or the commercialization of the product. If not commercialization, at least for clinical trials and for use for its health claims and nutritional attributes. Now, first, it's very important for us to understand the various processes which are involved in the translation of the concept to actual reality, so that the product will be acceptable, marketable, and also it will have all the nutritional attributes which we are intending it to. Not to forget the safety assessment. Sometimes if we are using any non nutrient or a novel ingredient in it, it has to undergo safety assessment using animal studies. So therefore I would say this journey of functional food development from concept to reality encompasses preclinical to clinical studies. So there is a lot of translation which is involved from preclinical to clinical. So whoever is interested in the development of functional foods, it's very important first of all to understand the entire processes which are involved. And ultimately, if it has to be released into the market, it has to satisfy the regulatory aspects, that it has to get the regulatory approval whichever country you are intending to release it, and also substantiate the health claims. So in today's times, functional foods are the in thing. However, I would say that it is not an overnight job to bring out a functional food. I know all foods are functional. We have been eating foods for deriving the benefit of energy, proteins, etc. But functional foods are those which extend extra nutritional, extra health benefits beyond the quantity which you have been consuming throughout your life. So therefore, we can exploit the commonly consumed food grains and pulses and vegetables for the particular component which they are present. So therefore, either we can isolate them and incorporate it in some food product wherein that component is missing, or you can enhance by concentrated by microencapsulation. And there are various technological processes by which you can improve the health attributes of a particular food. So with these few words, I would like to thank the team of HealthOspect for inviting me to be a part of this talk delivered by Dr. Datta Roy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I will like to introduce Nandini to welcome preamble. Nandini, please over to you.
Sorry everyone, due to network connection here, I couldn't initiate the welcome preamble. I'd just like to thank our supporters and sponsors for the event. I also welcome the delegates from our knowledge partner who are Wisdom Extra Consultants Private Limited. And even I feel proud to be a part of a women empowerment organization which is Swayam Shakti. I welcome all their board of directors and executive members of Swayam Shakti. I welcome you all dear participants. Those are now connected with us on digital platform of Zoom, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are really happy to share with you all that we have motivated with overwhelming response of more than 1,000 participants from all over India as well as overseas like Dubai, Malaysia, Singapore, Scotland. We have participants from all over the world and India especially. Today, I'm happy to share about NutriTalk, an initiative of HealthOspect. NutriTalk is a platform to exchange knowledge on top nutritional trends. This knowledge series plays a vital role as a torchbearer on nutrition theories, talks, researches, models, concepts, observations, articles, and many more, which are shared by top food and research scientists, nutritional coach, clinical dietitians, food researchers, manufacturers, professors, influencers, industrialists, as well as professionals of nutritional domain. NutriTalk is a perfect compassionate way for those who want to be able to follow a healthy diet rich in nutrients to enhance the body's performance. NutriTalk helps to achieve one primary objective, which is exploring new avenues related to food and nutrition. Sir, we also will also inform us about nutraceuticals, and NutriTalk is curated by HealthRespect with the focused, selfless intention, which is nutrition is a physical, psychological, and social behavior leading to a healthy and happy lifestyle. I welcome you all in the world of knowledge, and guys, stay connected with us. And over to you, Sanket.
Thank you, Nandini. So now I would be honored to introduce our today's keynote speaker, that is Dr. Asim Dattarai sir, who is a group leader in a clinical nutrition facility of medicine in University of Oslo. Welcome, sir. Welcome to NutriTalk 2020.
Hello. Thank you very much. Could you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. So I'll just share the screen now without.
So I would also like to introduce sir. So you are.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. I couldn't understand. Yeah.
Sir have many international patents, including cardioprotective factors in a tomatoes and kiwi fruit, which is also named by Fruity Flow. It is a scientifically proven tomato extract which inhibits platelet aggregation, which is known cause of heart attack. I would also like to mention that Fruity Flow is the first product in Europe to obtain positive health claim by European food safety regulations. Sir's scientific work has been published over 260 contribution reviews, such as which includes the book chapters, editors, and 7 books. Sir patent had led to establishment of 2 international companies named Provix Limited and IDIS Norway. Sir was facilitated at 13 international clinical nutrition by Mexico. I would also like to mention that Sir was invited by a nominator, that is Nobel Committee of Candidates by Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. Sir has gave more than 140 lectures in different countries on cardioprotective factors in fruits. Sir also has a website which you can view. Also, I would like to mention that Sir has endless list of achievements, which will take like more than 1 hour to prove that. So I would like to welcome our sir. And sir, it's an honor to have you on this platform. Welcome, sir. Welcome to NutriTalk 2020.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for a kind introduction. I'm quite humbled. And of course, should I share the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, because can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the whole screen?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay. I'm currently now here with the Oslo University Hospital in Norway. Probably you know the name in terms of Peace Prize, but it's a very peaceful country and social country where the medicine is free and education is free. So medicine is free means the government try to make sure that the health of the citizens are quite good, so that there is no big burden for the government. That's why food and nutrition and this idea is a part of the medical curriculum. And it has been shown that without proper good nutrition status, the medicine doesn't work properly. And today I'll be talking about the functional food development that I was involved from 1999 while I was in Aberdeen University, and that took 20 years. The millions of pound cost that led to the product called Fruit Flow today, and it has been being sold all over the world except China and India, but it will come soon. And I'll be talking about my journey with this humble tomato and how it ended up as the first product in the world, and it has got a lot of positive accolades and different societies in different worlds. So I will start that the medicine is not a healthcare as such. Food is a healthcare, and medicine is actually sick care, because it takes care of the sick people and not the health as such. So you have to understand the distinction between the medicine, food, and health, etc. And the father of our modern medicine, Sir John Osler, he said that the first duty of the physician is to educate the people, not to take the medicine. I think while he said that, he meant that that everybody of us should understand the body, the nutrition, the food, and also we have a big partner in our body. That is, we have a 2 to 3 times more the microbiota that is all over the body, and it is regulating our mood and etc. So it's very important the food they should get properly so that they can survive and thrive and can help us have a good life. Now, this is known for a long time in our civilization, that let food be our medicine and medicine should be our food. And the philosophy behind is always prevention. So it is in our civilization in India, and also as you see in the Greece, there is a kind of that kind of wisdom was there. The food is very, very important that we are taking in our body to survive and sustain, and with not only good health, but also mental, important mental status of this. Sorry, what happened? It stopped.
No, sir,
Yeah.
your screen is...
Yeah, all right. So when it comes to food, actually, then we should think about what is food all about. And of course, that is a cultural connotation to it. Every culture has different type of food, basically all the protein, fat, carbohydrate, but I'm talking about the other part, unseen. That is phytochemicals, other chemicals, and minerals that is not typically known, because their deficiency always does not give to the clinical situation that you can say, unless there is some vitamins, of course. But say for phytochemicals, the deficiency does not lead to a kind of a detectable kind of clinical situation. But we know that food has 2 kilograms food and drink that we consume today with 40 essential nutrients, and we have more bacteria in our microbes in our body than our own cells. So we make sure that these are not changed, that we get at the beginning of life from the mother, if you are born properly, not cesarean section. That's why cesarean section is quite banned in Norway, because this is very important, the gift of the mother, that all the babies should get it. Unless there is a medical problems. And of course, there are so many organs, and we have so many genes are expressed, and epigenetics are there, but I will not go into details there. But what I'm trying to say that the food is not a simple thing, and the research is more complicated, of course. And we have so many molecules. We take it, and also we produce in the body. Say, for example, arachidonic acid, one fatty acid can give you hundreds of chemicals in the body when body is inflamed or for daily housekeeping, and they have a different sorts of activity. It's a humongous amount of information or activity that we get. It depends on the food we take about it. What happened, sometimes the screen is frozen. I could not go to the next slide. Hello, could you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why I'm not going?
No, sir, you.
Why I can't go to the next slide?
Wait, sir. Let me just check.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some problem. Okay, I'll come to the first thing last and last thing first, something else. But also, if you see that the food is there, but food is changing also. If you look at this cartoon, when there is a hunter-gatherer society we had, then our forefather used to travel or used to move their body 3 to 5 miles or more to get the food for 5 days, few days. And at that time, those who could not move much, they died down. So now we have a sedentary lifestyle. The food comes to our desk or our dining table, and we are eating it there without going to the physical activity. So physical activities were also very important that we developed. And also we change our food intake pattern. If you see this, fruits and vegetable intake is much low, whole grain is much low, animal fat is increased, and most of the civilization started near the sea or the river. So we have a good source of protein from fish, and also fish has certain kind of fatty acid. I'll talk later on, that is very helpful in terms of food and nutrition. So there are a lot of changes going on. And at the same time, the refinement of the food coming, so we're losing so many phytochemical also. So everything is changing also, but one thing is remain constant, our genotypes or the genetics, the mutation is pretty low. So we have a modern food, modern technology, food is coming to our table, but we are not moving much. So there is a mismatch between the food and the body, and it leads to obesity, etc., other problems also. Again, there is a problem, I think, in terms of showing the next slide. Can you, somebody, please help me?
Sir, I think so. There's a problem from your side. Can you please again screen share again? Disconnect and screen.
Okay. I could not get out from here. There's a problem.
Okay, wait, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it is there. Now it is coming. I don't know. And if you look at the evolution of nutrition, it is early man, it is survival mostly. And when it comes to Greek civilization, probably Hindu civilization also like that, they thought about diet and disease. And 16th century, we understood the diet and longevity relationship. And 19th century, we discovered so many vitamins, C and A, B, D, etc. This is the 19th century. And 20th century, it is the protein energy requirements. That's the major issue. And now it is the time for functional food that I'll be talking about today. What is functional food? I think the chairperson who talked a little bit about it, it is very important that the food which gives the functionality beyond its traditional definition of nutrition, it gives much more than that, than it is called functional food. And that we'll be talking about it. And the first incidence of the functional food actually came in 20th May 1747, when the Scottish surgeon discovered that if you take vitamin C, you can prohibit scurvy, and this is a kind of a food has functionality, so you can prevent this sort of deficiency problem. So this idea came, and then it went to Japan, and the functional food became very popular there, and now it is in Europe. I think is a major issue, is a functional food. Again, I think it is disturbing a lot, the flow of my talk. Oh.
Sir, could you please check your...
I think when it'll come this next one, then I will change again and relog. It never happened before. I gave so many lectures with Google or Zoom. I stop screen sharing, then I will go there, or new share.
Just stop screen sharing, then again, could you please connect?
Okay, I did it.
Yeah.
Can you see me now?
Yes, but I can't see the presentation. Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what are the functional foods? So nutrition, as I said, is moving away from treating deficiencies to reducing the risk of chronic disease, the prevention things, and preventive nutrition. And certain food components, it is now established as a health benefit. And the amount of such food component present in certain food is such small concentration that it makes impossible to consume adequate quantities. Hence, the thing comes that you have to isolate it and may remain maintaining the chemistry of it. And then if it is given to the particular population, then it should inhibit the disease or certain, or medical food. If it is medical food, then it should consider the disease situation. So using the commonly consumed food, the addition of the particular nutrients or functional nutrients, it is become strategy. And it is very important that aging population, those who have digestive problems and they cannot absorb nutrition properly. So in those cases, it is very important. And again, this problem is coming. It did not solve the problem. What is going on?
So can you please check this again?
Sorry.
Because there is no problem from our side.
Yeah. Now, so nutraceutical and functional food, there is a kind of overlap, but we can say they food or part of the food or nutrient that provides health benefit, including the prevention and treatment of a disease, is called functional food. But then you have to be very careful. You see in this slide that is a two groups of people. One took banana, other took cookies. And if you look at there, the glucose response, the blood glucose response is quite different. So here it comes some personal nutrition that everybody does not respond similar way. And the banana is not, if you look at the bottom.
Can I share a presentation from my side for you?
Yeah, it is working now, I think. Can you see me?
I can see you, but I can't see your presentation.
Okay, then you do it. How can I do it?
Could you please just mail me, then I can directly present you the...
Okay, I'm mailing you.
Yeah.
Just mailed.
I got it.
It is still delivering a little bit. This never happened before. I don't know. Could not you see now?
Yes, sir, yeah. I have received. Yes, I have received the mail.
So what should I do? Should I stop?
You stop the screen sharing. I'll share from my side.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah. Now I'm sharing the screen.
Okay.
I think so. It is visible.
Yeah. Please go to the slide number. You go to the slide number 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah. This is okay.
Yeah. Go to next one. Yeah. All right. This is the glucose response, blood sugar response. When somebody was given a fasting state, either banana or cookies, and if you look at those people are different in their response. It's not the same response. So it gives the idea that there is a kind of a personal issue is there in terms of total body genotypes, microbiota, when it comes to the blood sugar response. It's not willy-nilly that apple and orange is same. So when you develop the functional food, you have to also understand the variations among the people in terms of response. Next slide, please. Yeah. These are some of the functional ingredients or nutrients. We know the beta carotene is present in some of the food items. It is a very good antioxidant, etc. Lutein is very important for healthy vision. We know very well. And also lycopene being used against prostate cancer. And of course, beta glucan and etc. They're very much important in when it comes to reducing CBD, metabolic syndromes, because with the help of the gut bacteria, it produces some of the compounds, short chain fatty acid, etc., that can interact with our system and gives a beneficial effect. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, and these are the bioactive ingredients that is used in the functional food, as you know, for bone health, calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and the birth defect, everybody knows almost, the folic acid is very important. And for the gut bacteria, gut health, the prebiotics and probiotics like fibers and some of the bacteria, we know it is important. So, okay, go to the next slide because it's quite disturbed now, the whole talk. So the functional food is actually modulate relevant target functions. Either it should improve metabolic or physiological processes, so enhance the biochemical function claims, and or reduce the risk of pathologic processes, and it has a disease risk reduction. I will not have much time to discuss the European Food Standard Agency, how they see different rules regulation with different functional food, 13.5 to 13.1, etc., etc. But I'll just tell about the biochemistry and physiology and pathophysiology involving the functional food. Next slide, please. And there are steps are very complicated, and that first you have to analyze the food matrix and the intake, how it is, and how it is affecting the metabolism, inter and inter variability, whether this functionality is bioavailable with chemistry, proper chemistry, or without changing chemistry. It is possible that chemistry may change, so bioactivity is very important. And of course, the organ function that you have to understand that it is particularly targeting organs. And also we have to know the cellular mechanism, and ultimately targeted delivery is not there or not. So functional food research is almost like a drug research. It's not easy. One can claim so many things, but ultimately at the end of the day, one has to prove in terms of structural components of it, bioactivity, and also bioavailability in a big trial. Not the disease people, involving the healthy people, to show that if you take that sort of thing, then it is functional. It doesn't. It doesn't allow to the disease to progress. Next slide, please. And this is the pathway from form to function. The first is you have to isolate particular ingredients or component or compounds that you think is important. And then you look at is bioactivity in a test tubes or in the cell culture, whatever it is. Then you have to find out whether it is in animal studies or that it is absorbed, and it is bioavailability, and is doing the right kind of function. And then you find what so you may or may not find is structural things in the plasma. It can be metabolized, it can be different compounds or conjugations. Then you have to see the target cell, and then you have to see, say, for example, does it lower the cholesterol after consuming this or not? Then you can say, you can relate to that observation to the health outcome like CVD or other things. So this is the long way to attribute any functionality to any of the components that you think is important. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Now, we are, when we talk about the clinical versus nutritional, then we have to think about how the disease progress. Absence of disease does not mean you are healthy. There could be some problems there. So we have to understand, and we have to continuously working on to find the early biomarker on which we can work on it with respect to diet, food, nutrition, or functional food, whatever you call it. But but whatever we do here is we are treating late biomarker of the disease, like say, for example, blood pressure or hyperglycemic conditions. Then this is a pharmaceutical intervention is very important to lower the blood sugar or lower the blood glucose. But the idea of modern nutritionists or those who are working in biotechnology or functional food, they have to make sure that these are the biomarkers that has to remain within the 2 lines of the standards. Say, and if we can keep those, say, for example, for blood pressure 120/80, we can maintain it by taking some food or functional food and continue it. Then we could end up in a healthy aging. But if it is not, then obviously the pharmaceutical intervention is necessary. So for nutritionists and biotechnologists, those involving in discovering functional food, they have to make sure that we understand the early biomarker of the disease. And that's why the proteomics, lipidomics are in there, and we try to relate some of these metabolites with the linking the late part of the disease. So this is very important part of the functional food development, that we should understand the early biomarker of the disease and try to keep them in between these 2 dotted line, so that the person does not give the expression of the symptom of the disease. So this is one of the most important criteria for functional food research. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Say, for example, heart disease. It is a disease of a complicated reason. There are several risk factors we know of, and some we don't know yet. And it has been exemplified if you look at the heart disease among the young people, athletes, etc. There is no specific reason for that. Of course, there are certain risk factors we know of: high blood cholesterol, high blood pressure, family, aging, etc. Male gender is no more true. This is a similar or more problem for women than men that we know now. This is a 20 years old slide. So, but still we don't know. There are so many other risk factors for cardiovascular disease we don't know. And there are a lot of controversy about saturated fat versus PUFA, etc. But this is still an ongoing debate and things like that. But of course, lowering cholesterol is beneficial, that lowering blood pressure, but this is not the only case. If you go to the next slide, please. Next slide. And this is a study done in from Framingham study. If you look at this slide very carefully, that the two lines with the different total serum cholesterol versus population, if you look at those who have a myocardial infarction, AMI, and those who don't have, they have a similar level of cholesterol level. So that means this is not the only criteria to have a cardiovascular disease. And if you compare the Middle Eastern the population, like in Greece and other related countries, they have a high cholesterol smoker. They don't have that much cardiovascular event as it compared with India or America. Those have high cholesterol is really, really big issue because there are other dietary component they take, like tomato, olive oil, etc. So they are quite protective. So that means there are other things you have to take into account to make sure that things are really diagnosed. So what I'm trying to say here, that although the cholesterol is one of the important risk factor, but if you with the 5,000 more population, this study shows it is not. Those who having a myocardial infarction, those who don't have, they have a similar cholesterol level. Next slide, please. Actually, this study, when I was in the clinical department in Aberdeen University, I was very much interested in 1989 to see whether anything we know of that is in fruits and vegetables that actually protect human being. And at that time, the antioxidant is a major issue. Most of the fruits and vegetables and other studies done to how to protect LDL oxidation. And LDL oxidation, we know of very well how pathology of it, how it has been taken up and foam cell formation and atherosclerotic plaque formation is there. But I was interested other part of the cardiovascular thing, that is the platelet, which is we have a billions of platelet that is like a reconnaissance flight, is moving around the body blood vessels, and it is looking for any discontinuity in terms of the damage of the vessel wall. That means when you get injured, the blood try to come out and they stop it by making a clot and thrombus formation, and then they stop the blood flow coming. It is very important part of the homeostasis. If we lose the blood, we lose the blood pressure and we'll die. So this is a major function of the platelet. In normal situation, they are inactive and they are roaming around, and if they see anything, if you look at the middle of this slide, anything like that, with the fibrinogen help, they come together, make a good clot and stop the blood, and then they repair the vessel wall, then they slapped off. This is the hemostatic plaque. But this platelet, as we know now in COVID-19, and also those who are having diabetes, obesity, sitting long time in the office, and pollution, that makes platelet very active, and we call hyperactive. And hyperactive platelet means, go to the next slide, please. That means it sheds some of the membrane. In a normal situation, this is endothelium. If you look at that under the box, the von Willebrand factor, collagen, etc., they are buried under the endothelium. So the surface is very shiny, the blood vessels. Blood moves very nicely. Billions of cells, packed cells, white blood cells, including the red blood cell and platelets, they move around. And the main job with blood, they look for any, they give the oxygen and take the carbon dioxide back as in the lungs, and then they do it, and then they take the blood in the tissues and take back the carbon dioxide. They do that. But the platelet and immune cells, they have a different function. One of the, I'll be talking about the platelet. Platelet, they look for any breakage in the endothelium in terms of fat deposition, in terms of activation of the endothelium that happens in COVID-19 because of cytokine storms, and it happens in smokers because of oxidative stress, and also it happens with bad diet. This sort of endothelium become active. And then, next slide, please. And then what happens, platelet become active. Okay. Then it produces this sort of nasty molecules. It is nasty in a normal situation because we don't expect platelet to shed this sort of molecules. Then it interact with the vessel wall and produce a atherosclerotic type of situation. And if somebody has already atherosclerotic, then it will produce the plaque and the penultimate event, that a cardiovascular clot, etc. And this hyperactive platelet, we now know that platelet major role, of course, is the thrombosis formation, but another important role is lifetime role is a atherosclerotic plaque formation. because of the production of the semi-active platelets. They produce these activating agents, and they're bombarding endotheliums, and endothelium supposed to be inert materials. Then they next slide, please. They express these compounds, these adhesive molecules, von Willebrand factors and collagen, and then you see platelet anchored there, docked there, and that is the beginning of atherosclerotic plaque formation. And that can happen to young people, those who have insulin resistance, but a lot of oxidative stress, and those who have already kind of a cardiovascular problem, obesity, smokers, diabetes, pollution, PM3, 2.5 is shown that they don't have any problems, but they're having a heart attack because of the platelet all on a sudden become hyperactive and produce this havoc. So these sort of molecules are expressed. It happens also in COVID-19, and that's why this COVID-19, the secondary treatment of coagulopathy and hyperactive platelet is a major issue. How to treat them apart from ARDS, etc. So this is another important aspect of clinical treatment for the COVID-19 patient because of hyperactivity of platelets and producing cardiovascular event. Next slide, please. And also, there is a very complicated slide that activated platelet, they make active purinergic receptors, and then through NPY, the vasoconstriction happens. And if somebody has a hyperplatelet activity, they can have a high blood pressure. And this blood pressure cannot be reduced much by standard blood pressure, anti-blood pressure medicine, because it's a platelet activator. And it happens with obesity and those who have a there is a certain amount of blood pressure is raised because of hyperactivity of platelet, and we call it because standard blood pressure drug doesn't work in that way. So that means we call it resistant to some of the standard blood pressure drugs. But it could be initiated by hyperactivity of the platelet under this condition that I described. It is not a clinical, but it's a semi-clinical condition. Insulin resistance, almost everybody have it. Those who are sitting long time, young people not working or not walking, or they have also hyperplatelet activity because of this behavior. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so coming back to hyperactivity of platelets, that's a major pillar of the cardiovascular disease as well as the hemostasis. They become hyperactive. They're supposed to be inactive. They're only active when it is needed, and that is called physiology. But they become hyperactive because of this condition: diabetes, insulin, obesity, aging, pollution, sedentary lifestyle, overnutrition, and also under condition oxidative stress, inflammation, COVID-19 condition in cancer, and hypertension condition. And this is a problem. This is a problem. This is the beginning of the understanding the functional food against platelet. Because the thing is that this aspirin that you use, the only one antiplatelet agents or other few drugs, but they are kind of a blanket approach. They inhibit the platelet completely through its life cycle. That's 10 days. So, and platelet had a lot of other physiological activity. They lost also that. So that's why the aspirin cannot be used as a preventive. That is banned by FDA. Because, and also 30% people are resistant to aspirin. Simply, they don't work. It happens to the Indian, Caucasian, throughout the world. The 30% people don't respond to aspirin. That's why they give a combination. But doctor doesn't follow it up whether the platelet still become inhibited or not. And also side effect is there. Intestine is gone because we need a protective prostaglandin to protect the intestine. But if you take long-time aspirin or steroid, then protection is gone. That ulcer and other will produce, a lot of wind will form, etc. So, and under this condition, platelet become active and they contribute. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is to show that in a traffic-related pollution, deep vein thrombosis, platelet become active because of the pollution, and they also contribute this sort of DVT. Next slide, please. And also that is also particle size 2.5 and stroke. The study is shown in Brazil and others. The stroke and etc. is nothing to do with other risk factor. It's just simple particulate matter 2.5 particle that induces the stroke and other cardiovascular disease. Next slide, please. Because of hyperactivity of platelet. So summarizing all these things, this pathological disorder, including COVID-19, that lead to platelet hyperactivity, and it is a lifelong platelet hyperactivity because it secretes so many things that actually activate the endothelium that produce the atherosclerosis, and that gives the platform for future CVD disease. In addition to that, those who have already plaque formation, this platelet hyperactivity because of this lifestyle and other things that lead to a final event like stroke and things like that. But now the question to us at that time, next slide please, that with the billions of people with the cardiovascular problems and no cardiovascular problem, and insulin resistant may be there, what should we do to tame this platelet? But before I go there, I'll just show you the platelet. Those who don't know, they're produced in the bone marrow. Their life is only for 10 days. They have to be in the circulation 200 to 400,000 per cubic millimeter. It should be no less, should be no more. And if it is less, that happened in dengue fever, then it's a big problem. And if it is less, it happened in COVID-19 because of DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation involved in coagulation pathway. And if it is more in cancer and other situations, that becomes coagulation. So we have to maintain this platelet. And every 10 days, every day we produce 10% of new platelets. So that means if you take aspirin, after 10 days, you should still have a 10% of new platelets, which are not actually inhibited by aspirin. And another thing is that if the cardiac event happens by breaking the plaque, that will give the tissue factor mediated activation of extrinsic coagulation factors that activate factor 7, and that they produce thrombin, and thrombin induced platelet activation aggregation does not care whether you take aspirin or not. That's why aspirin may be a good drug, but still it fails when it comes to real need. That is when the plaque is broken, aspirin cannot do much. Next slide, please. And if you look here, this platelet activation can happen if somebody has a collagen express because of the vessel wall expression, ADP because of stress or red blood cell broken, adrenaline also that, and then thrombin, when as I've already mentioned, if the plaque is broken, extrinsic thrombin is a real killer. It becomes available in the circulation, then it activates coagulation pathway, also they activate platelets. Next slide, please. And this platelet then become active and then expresses glycoprotein 2b3 on the surface, that's the fibrinogen receptor, then platelet aggregation, and platelet aggregation means there is a thrombus formation. Next slide, please. Next slide, just go on. Yeah, just to show that in hemostasis, if you have exposed collagen, the platelet will come and seal the things, and then it will repair the tissue, and then it will go away. Next slide, please. Yeah, and if you take aspirin, aspirin is not as such is a platelet inhibitor. What it does, it acetylate cyclooxygenase. And acetylate cyclooxygenase means it cannot convert arachidonic acid liberated from phospholipid membrane of the platelet by activation of different thrombin, collagen, etc., etc. This arachidonic acid then produces thromboxane A2, and this thromboxane A2 is a must to express the glycoprotein 2B and 3A, that is a receptor. It has to be expressed in order to aggregate so that it can bind more platelets, and so this is going on. So if you take aspirin, it can inhibit collagen, epinephrine, etc., thromboxane A2 pathway, so that there will be no aggregation. But if you look at here, thrombin, the red line, it can activate glycoprotein 2b3A. Doesn't matter whether you are aspirated cyclooxygenase or not. So that means there is a side effect. There is another negative weakness of the aspirin for the people, those who are having a heart attack. The thrombin cannot be stopped in aggregating the platelets. It can stop collagen, epinephrine induced platelet aggregation. Those are doing through the thromboxane A2 production, but thrombin can do without involving thromboxane A2. So that means it is resistant to aspirin. Next slide, please. And currently available drug is aspirin, clopidogrel, ticlopidine, and mechanism is almost same, the thromboxane A2 production. And they are doing it. As I said, 30% people are, next slide please, are resistant to aspirin. And if we look at this there, that aspirin it can inhibit 100% thromboxane A2 when it comes to any aggregating agents. When there is an attack, thrombin will be generated, or the blood cell is broken, ADP will come into circulation, and a stress condition, these are coming. Thromboxane A2 can be synthesis, but it cannot stop thrombosis, only 50%, myocardial infarction only 30%, and total mortality on 10%, because the platelet aggregation apart from thromboxane A2 pathway exists, and that is not stopped by, cannot stop by aspirin, because it is other pathway. And thrombin is the major killer in that way, and ADP also, and depend on the blood rheology and other things, shear stress, which I don't have much time to talk about, but to make sure that you understand that aspirin is not a universal inhibitor of heart attack, then, because it cannot stop. It has some benefit, but not 100%. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, already side effects are there, the gut problems and gastric bleeding, and 30% people are resistant because of this. Next slide, please. And there is no drug yet. So in 1999, I was interested to find out, and two questions in my mind. One is that how we can really look for some agent that can stop the platelet activation in so-called healthy population, those who have a insulin resistance, obesity, but those who don't have expressed cardiovascular disease, like those who have a stent or bypass, they can use aspirin and no problem as a secondary prevention. But for the primary prevention, aspirin cannot be used regularly because of the side effect and because of you cannot take it long time. There is sleep disorder and things happen. So it is almost banned in America and Europe. You cannot take daily basis. So I was looking for it. There is something there in the fruit vegetables that can do non-oxidant way. We know a lot of fruits and vegetables has antioxidant, that is for sure. Colored fruit has more or probably something, but and they affect through LDL oxidation. This is not a direct effect or straightforward effect on the cardiovascular event. It is a long-time thing of the fruits and vegetable antioxidant action. But if you look at this epidemiological observation, those countries are taking more fruits and vegetables. They have a less event of cardiovascular disease, and just opposite in terms of vascular event. So there is some correlation, of course. The taking fruits and vegetables is a kind of a inhibitory or reduces the CVD events. And that could be for two reasons. One is generally those who are vegetarian, they are more health cautious. They don't eat fast food, etc. So they are not taking wrong kind of chemicals, or it could be something in the fruits and vegetables that is protecting them. That was the question at that time. Next slide, please. And this is the beginning of the story, of the fruit flow story in 1999. What we did that time in our hospital, we actually went to the market, and whatever fruits available in Scotland, we don't grow much at that time there. We bought tomato to apple, everything. And then we make a smash of it. We make a juice of it and clarify it. Very simple bucket chemistry. And then we measure the pH is very, very low, actually, highly acidic. So we neutralize it. Then we take the blood and we isolate the platelet, and then we add aggregating agent to see the platelet aggregate 100% or 90%, and we did it. Then what we did, this platelet, we incubated this juice, 10 microliter in 300 microliter of platelets. And we added this for 15 minutes of different fruit juice. And you see in that cartoon on the left side, the juice coming from tomato, it has a 70% inhibition of platelet aggregation induced by ADP. whereas the other fruits has some activity, but it is the tomato which comes the most potent aggregating agents in the in vitro study. The platelet is taken out of the body, and then platelet was incubated with this juice for 10-15 minutes, and then we added aggregating agents, ADP, collagen, etc., and we look at their aggregation profile. And we found the humble tomato has something in their juice which inhibit platelet aggregation. Next slide, please. And then we found, very interestingly, that tomato extract, if we add in ADP, collagen, arachidonic acid, and thrombin, they inhibit all of them, aggregation. More is ADP, less in collagen, arachidonic acid is less, and thrombin that is the most important discovery, that it inhibits thrombin-induced aggregation. What is thrombin? We generate it when there is a plug broken, cardiac event happened. And aspirin, if you see the right side, had no effect on thrombin-induced aggregation. So this humble tomato is a multiple anti-aggregating effect. It does not only inhibit ADP-induced aggregation, it inhibits collagen, it inhibits arachidonic acid, though low, but it does. But most importantly, it inhibits thrombin-induced aggregation. Whereas the aspirin has no effect on ADP-induced aggregation, some effect on collagen, but 95%, of course, it is expected because it inhibits cyclooxygenase. So it is inhibiting 95%. So in terms of multiple action at the different aggregating site, the tomato extract is much more effective and than aspirin that is being used till today. Next slide, please. And we found that extract that we were talking about, it is not a lycopene, it is not in the flesh, it is in the yellow fluid around the seed, you would get it. And mostly you lose when you make a salad because this fluid is lost. And but this is a heat stable, water soluble, small molecular weight, and it is not lycopene. Next slide, please. And then we actually what we did, we have so many publications and patent also later on that we use very simple bucket chemistry type of separation. We homogenize and ultrafiltration, so move out all this high molecular stuff, and then we use column, and then we found that the dry material, which is 4% of the juice, that contain this high antiplatelet activity, and we published several papers, started with Platelet Journal and then in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, 2 studies later on. Next slide, please. And then we found that this extract, if you do more HPLC, then they are divided into 3 more major fractions, and we call it AF1, AF2, AF3. Next slide, please. And they have a different activity against different agents. In the total active fractions, and then the AF1 is equally active against thrombin, ADP, and arachidonic acid, but not much against thrombin. Sorry, here, my eye problem is there. And AF2 is more active against thrombin, whereas the AF3 is more active against arachidonic acid. So you see, in nature, we are finding some of the chemicals which are water soluble present in the tomato, which has a very strong inhibitor, not just against ADP, but against collagen, thrombin, and also arachidonic acid in vitro study at the moment. Next slide, please. And if we give, okay, and then we did several trials, actually 10 trials involving 80 to 200 people. We make the extract, we get rid of the sucrose, etc., and that's called the so-called or polyphenols, etc. there. And then this study is about Venplon study. We have 27 volunteers, and Venplon is on, and we have given single blind study. We have given this extract with and in orange juice, with and without, and we found within 1.5 hours. Well, this study was designed in such a way that it is also important that it should not give more than 30% reduction of platelet activity. Otherwise, it will produce a bleeding disorder. So we make sure that it gives only 20 to 30% inhibition and not more than. And within 1.5 hours, you see the activity is expressed. The platelet aggregation is inhibited by 23%. Or is the control, there is no effect. So this is a study, it is published in American Journal of Clinical, showing the first time that the tomato extract isolated in a way from the tomato, and then it is mixed in a juice, and you give it to the volunteers, and when it is consumed, this volunteer, as is expected, 20 to 30% reduction of platelet aggregation is happening. And that is important. That is a hyperactivity of the platelet. It can be reduced. Next slide, please. And then we did both acute study and chronic study. And at that time, we don't know how much to be given. So we give different doses from 2 tomato to 6 tomatoes. And also we also did the chronic study involving 100 volunteers. It is a old slide. It is done. We have the research data later on. Next slide, please. And in this clinical study showing that in a 7-hour period cannulation study I showed you earlier, that if you give a tomato extract and within 1.5 hours, you can see there is a decrease 7% to 20% in 3 hours, and that is stabilized up to 6 hours. And with the control, there is no changes. And the volume is important. If you give in a 50 ml juice, there is some effect as 27, but if the volume is increased because of the absorption problem, then you get less inhibition. So what this study is showing, that cannulation study, that up to 7 hours, if the tomato extract is taken, you can easily inhibit 20 to 30% of the inhibition of platelet aggregation compared to control. And this is we expected, because we want to give something as an inhibitory, not 100% inhibition as we see in aspirin. It is a pathological condition, because then platelet cannot function properly, and it cannot be used as a preventive measure, because if one cannot survive with 100% platelet activity is not there, because then it cannot aggregate, it cannot fight against so many things, including the bleeding disorder. Next slide, please. And we found that it is only affecting the platelet activation, one limb of the hemostasis, not the clotting times. That is very important. It does not affect any of the coagulation pathway, but it only affecting the platelet, and no adverse effect found. And also we expected that, because there is an epidemiological study from Middle East, Mediterranean diet. They consume so much tomato years after years and no side effect. Although 100 years ago, the tomato has been considered as a poison fruit. Now it is considered one of the most beneficial food in terms of prostate cancer, including our discovery of antithrombotic properties. But unfortunately in India, we don't do that much of research in a proper way, so that it can be qualified for EFSA approval and other things, not just like big advertisement without proper scientific attribution. Next slide, please. And also this is a chronic study, as we expected, for whole 3 months, and is showing that clotting time does not change, but it reduced some plasma triglyceride, and ADP-mediated aggregation and collagen-mediated aggregation is reduced compared to control. And P-selectin, that is one of the agent when platelet become active, it expresses and it binds to the endothelium. It is not very good for this, and it seems like it is also reducing. So we have next slide, please. And these are all the data that we have before we submitted to EFSA approval in 2007 or 9, I forgot now. And this study with the different ways, but all studies done with human, you have to make sure important, and not with the diseased people. If you want to have level in functional food, you have to make sure 13.5 allows only healthy people, that you show some effect, not the disease. Then it will go to the medical food or other section. And all the studies we have done, it is in Aberdeen and in Oslo, that involves human subject with the mechanistics and with the well-designed markers, mostly platelet, and also other blood coagulation pathway that is affecting it. And from 1 day, overnight to 3 months. Next slide, please. And 2010, we got, this is the first one out of thousands of application for approval of European Food Standard Agency. That is, you need it now. Without that, you cannot claim anything. That you should have a scientific substantiation. You must have a chemical characterization. You have a human trial involving healthy people. And if you have all this data, then you can apply for approval from the European Food Standard Agency. And then you can label it like this. It was firstly approved. These human studies consistently show a reduction in platelet aggregation following consumption of water-soluble tomato concentrate under the condition used proposed by the applicant. So this is, then we got this permission that it helps maintain normal platelet aggregation, which contribute to healthy blood flow. Blood flow is very important for the brain function, to skin color, to skin, and also peripheral circulation. And it seems like because becoming more inactive, this platelet, and so the blood flow is more, and not much traffic problems, and it gives a better circulations, and of course also it inhibits atherosclerotic plaque formation, and also it inhibits final events, and plus it does not have any side effect, and it makes sure the platelet physiologically active under this condition. Next slide, please. And later last year or so, we just then compared that how, if you take 75 milligram of this fruit flow versus aspirin in a normal volunteers, as we expected, if you next day after consuming 75 milligram versus aspirin versus tomato extract, we found after next day, it is a similar effect, no problem at all. And but in aspirin, there is a low responder because as you know, 30% people are generally doesn't respond to it. And so as a daily basis, it seems like one day is enough to see the effect, whereas the aspirin also does this. But if you continue for 7 days, then you see up to 90% inhibition of platelet aggregation in terms of aspirin, and that is the problem. Then you cannot go to anything in the hospital or other things that might lead to bleeding disorder. But with taking the tomato extract every day is a 13 to maximum 36% inhibition, and that is a physiological kind of a response, and that gives it can be used as a primary prevention because it does not inhibit 100% of the platelet activity that happens with aspirin. And also aspirin as such is not a platelet inhibitor. It inhibits prostaglandin production. So you have a lot of side effect from sleeping, weight cycle to gastrointestinal problems. But with this tomato extract, is water soluble, it can be easily flushed out from the body, and it doesn't accumulate the platelet inhibition. It's always, even after taking these things, it still is maximum 36%. So it is a very good candidate as a primary prevention for those people who does not have expressed cardiovascular disease. Next slide, please. And last year also we did, because we know that a lot of polyphenols and also peptides present in yogurt, they inhibit angiotensin converting enzymes that produce angiotensin 2. That angiotensin 2 is important for keeping the blood pressure. But it is high, then it becomes high blood pressure. And we know that in nature, there are a lot of anti-angiotensin 2, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, mostly in polyphenols, in tea and other things. So since these molecules are polyphenols, so we are interested to see whether do they inhibit angiotensin converting enzymes. And if they do it, then can we show it in a human individuals in a trial, whether does it reduce the blood pressure effect and things like that. And we did find that this extract, when it, next slide please, when done in test tubes, it inhibits angiotensin converting enzymes very well, like captopril and ramipril, etc. And I'm not showing the data here. Then we make a 24 hours ambulatory blood pressure, not a one-time measurements. 24 hours, the blood pressure will be measured, and the result will get through, next day. So 24 hours is not a 2 times, beginning and end. That could be a lot of blood pressure problem measurements because of temperamental situation and others. So that's why we use 24 hours. And we found, next slide, please. We use those volunteers, the description is there, that if you take for up to 150 milligram of tomato extract that we patented it, we got an international patent as an antiplatelet. We got the EFSA approval from the European Food Standard Agency, and we use the same composition and same thing, and we found that this platelet, this this tomato extract inhibit both after 24 hours in this volunteer, both platelet aggregation as well as it reduces the blood pressure. So that means this tomato extract, because it contains so much of antioxidant of diverse nature, it does not only lower the platelet aggregation, it also lower the blood pressure, inhibit angiotensin converter, and then some other study done in other countries, they show the same components, they also inhibit some cytokine production. Next slide, please. So here you have the summary of that we started 1999, and that this is effective against multiple platelet aggregating agents compared to aspirin, which is only effective against arachidonic acid, not against thrombin. And the 97% of all the trials we have done, it showed the positive response. It inhibits 20 to 30% of platelet aggregation, which we expected and we wanted, and without any side effect. And it inhibits the angiotensin converting enzymes, and it lowered the blood pressure in those people. And it is quite a secular effect. It does not really does the 100% as aspirin does. And also it is effective against any of 97% of the people. Next slide, please. And this product, Fruit Flow, is now the most popular being used. This study, not only we did, after that study done in Australia, South America, China, and Korea, they have found the same thing. And this product is branded as a Fruit Flow, marketed by Provexis, invented by me, patented by me. And it is a different name, but all this product should have a Fruit Flow logo there. And it is being circulated all over the world as a kind of a preventive, and could be used as a therapeutic, as an alternative to aspirin too. But we don't have any human disease data yet, so we cannot claim that. But it has all the potential to be used as a therapeutic. Next slide, please. And there are several publications involving this tomato extract. You can find out if you do Google search or PubMed, and that is there. And it has been, as I said, it being used as an adjunct to aspirin, and it is getting a lot of popularity more and more. And because of good science, there's the last 20 years work going on, millions of pounds has been spent, and a lot of publications and patent profile and several patents internationally. So it is a very well scientifically proven anti-platelet, anti-blood pressure agent. And I'm sure it will be, even in COVID-19, there are a lot of publications coming. It could be used. Those who have a aspirin resistant and side effect, etc., could be used. So I would like to thank you with my talk with this is the development. I did also work with other things, fetal brain development with DHA, but no time today, maybe next time. But I would like to really thank the organizer, especially who actually asked me to present my talk. I'm very much thankful to her, and it is really a great honor for me to share my research, Fruit Flow, to you. And I hope you understand. And for that, you don't need to take Fruit Flow. If you take 2 tomatoes, that should be enough. So it is not a commercial venture. It is a science, and people can get benefited. And we have also trial with tomato, whole tomato. We got the similar effect. So it is many thanks to you, and thank you for listening. And I'm ready to give any questions, answer if you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, we'll start with the question and answer session. So anyone with question? Yeah. Which form of tomato is more effective? Asked by
Oh,
Pushpa Bharati.
okay. Any tomato has the effect, but we don't use Indian tomato for the production of it because of they use a lot of chemicals and they have a similar molecule. Is a hazardous to separate these activities from the existing added chemicals that is happening. So we use mostly Spanish and Italian tomatoes. But maybe someday we'll can Indian. But we found that any tomato in India they have the activity. No question about it. The ripe or unripe, but the ripe has much more activity than unripe. And make sure you get the juice. Don't throw the juice. The fluid around the seed is the most important one.
Okay. How many functional foods can be used to develop product according to FSSI?
Sorry, I could not understand your question.
How many functional foods can be used to develop product according to FSSI?
How many foods you can use?
Yeah.
Yeah, the FSSI has a clearly says that any food or food components, if it gives the extra benefit for the health well-being as a preventive, that it can be used, no problem. As long and but you have to prove it that it works both. You have to give some mechanistic, you have to give some compositional things, and you have to make sure it is not done before patent. Patent is different thing, of course, and also chemistry is not changed because it's purification. You can add some chemicals and then you have to remove it. It has to make sure that this thing is there, and no side effect, no toxicology study is important, and it should not involve any disease. If you want 13.5 approval.
How much to consume? Like if you're taking tomato, what is the dietary allowance of it?
Okay, that is a good question, but in Mediterranean diet, tomato use willy-nilly up to 500 grams. Goulash they produce, but we found that 2 tomato size, 100-gram weight, is good enough to give the protection if you take every day, definitely. But the absorptions and others, if it is concentrated, it will be much better, definitely. But it doesn't get destroyed if you boil it or anything like that. No.
Is tomato soup effective or raw tomatoes are the best?
Tomato soup has the activity, of course. It has, because it is a very stable molecules. But of course, then you have to take a lot of it because of things there. But it's best is taking the whole tomato, I think. It's good. If somebody is not allergic to it or other things, it's okay.
Okay. What is the best functional food? The one which is the best functional food rather than tomato?
Oh, I think in 2010, there are a lot of functional food, of course, but not approved. In India, billions, the Rambaba or whoever. But real functional food with a real effect and scientific substantiation is not many. There is not many. There are not many. Only fish oil they got recently, last 5-6 years. Some stamp that can be a good functional food in some cases. Even with probiotic, they did not get approved, but recently they got 1 or 2 approved. So they are now coming, but rejection rate is too high because it is too much hype and not much scientification data, and statistics is not there, and the human trials are designed improperly. So many things and data are problematic, so they didn't get. What I say here, the functional food is approved scientifically by any country, then I consider is a functional food. I don't believe in grandma stories.
Raw or cooked, which is more beneficial?
We didn't compare anything like that. What we show that if you take raw tomato or if you have a this extract prepared after boiling also, so it should not damage after boiling. That much I can say. But the more volume you have, the absorption would be different or be less. So more concentrated the product is, it will be more easily absorbed, timely absorbed. So that's why the capsule is in the market.
What about organic tomatoes? They are the most beneficial ones, right?
No, no. Organic food is that it has the ambience is the same as we had 100 years back, only that. But whether does it affect the synthesis of this compound or not, we don't know. So we don't use organic tomato for production of this. But obviously, we don't use tomato which have been used so much of anti-insect or fertilizer of those sort of things. Then it makes it difficult to isolate the compounds.
So this is one of the most interesting question. Which kind of functional food can we expect during and post COVID? Which functional food is best?
Okay, because there, as far as I know, there, there, there are three areas that the functional food can be developed. One is, of course, the entry of the virus to the body through ACE2 and TMPRS, the two proteins. So if you could find something, but it's difficult. Other is the when it goes to the body, and the inflammatory, the cytokine storm, the damaging the endothelium and activating the platelet and coagulopathy. And also it inhibits, it has a problem with the neurological disorder. So there are three stages. One is the anti-inflammatory functions. Other is the anti-thrombotic and anticoagulation. Other is the brain, the neurological things. When it comes to, but it seems like the CVD is a major problem because the stroke and cardiovascular attack is a big problem. Aspirin being used at the moment and steroid also, but there are a lot of problems. But if you have already loaded with the functional food that inhibit the platelet hyperactivity or coagulopathy or protect the brain through omega-3 fatty acid, the research is going on. At the moment, as far as I know, that resveratrol, the present in red wine or the grapes, there's some study going on in terms of antiplatelet agent, but I think the fruit flow is place number one. There is a recent review came out from University of Pennsylvania about fruit flow. This is the most studied functional food in terms of anti-thrombotic situation. So it could be one of them before and after and still going on. And also high blood pressure situation, you could use yogurt or other peptides or antioxidants, including fruit flow. And in terms of anti-inflammatory, you can think of copper, zinc, they are very important of processing APC, antigen presenting cells, they need that sort of things. Plus omega-3 fatty acid is very important. So that make a Th1, Th2 bias is very important because when people get old, they produce less of antibody. Even somebody is vaccinated, doesn't matter if you don't process it properly and activate the Th cells to produce the antibody if it is not there, and it needs certain kinds of nutrients, and omega-3 is one of them. So I think those are the things people should think about. But I think the most important thing for all of us, of course, the mask is important, safe distance, but also our food, the functional food or bioactive food should be very important. Of them is taking a lot of antioxidant fruits and polyphenols and terpenoids, and those we know this functional food can positively modulate and make us competent against immune disorders, high inflammatory conditions, as well as the antiplatelet effect. So it does not override the platelet activity, and also blood coagulation. We could use heparin-like molecules. It does not give the coagulopathy, so many other things. And these are research is going on at the moment. But at the moment, in terms of scientific data, proven data, we have fruit flow and omega-3 and zinc. These are the important functional food in combating COVID-19 before and after.
Okay, there's one more question. What sort of processing steps decreases the availability of the target product from tomato?
Okay, this is the column chromatography is important. You might lose some of the activities. That is the thing. But it is oil developing. But by big company in Milan, I could not spell out much because of patent problems and the company's own secretive things. But it is possible to get more yield, definitely. But the chemist is, I'm not a chemist. So chemist is doing in that.
What kind of functional food development have potential in developing countries like India?
Sorry, I couldn't, I was thinking something else. Can you tell again?
What kind of functional food development have potential in developing countries like India?
You see, in India, we had a lot of information in, I think, Arjun Muni or something that time, but we lost it because we are much more biased with Western research and things like that. And we don't have enough research at the moment when it comes to attributing this functionality to any fruit. Like the tomato, as I said, 100 years ago is a poison fruit. Now it is one of the most functional fruit. But in India, the problem is we don't do research much. We go by stories. And of course, we have to think about that every fruit grown in different parts of India is not the same. The apple grown in your backyard is not the same as grown in Bengal because of the soil, etc. etc. So we need to do very good research, not jungle research. And with a proper goal, with a proper calibration of the fruit extract and genus, and we have a proper human trial with a properly statistical person involved, and we know in vitro study is there, mechanistic is there, then we can develop something. Otherwise, the berries will be the same as we have no. Amlokis remain the same we know 100 years back. It did not develop much. So, but in other countries, like a blueberry, it is now sold one of the most expensive functional food ingredients in Europe. But ours is remain the same because of a lack of research and a lack of proper idea and things like that. It's still there. So we need proper investment of science and unbiased science and proper design and look for what we need for our country is also important because blue sky research is important sometimes, but sometimes we have to look for what we have as a potential. We have some grandma story, definitely. Then we find out what is there, what is not there, and what is a story just. For that, we need a real good scientific story that is acceptable to the world. Then we'll come to that point. What is China is doing today? Thank you.
Country-wise nutraceutical definition changes. So in India, does nutraceutical dietary supplement pharmaceutical falls under functional food?
Yeah, I know. India doctors prescribe functional food. Even, coenzyme Q10 has been prescribed and sold like anything in India for reproductive health, but it has no science, nothing else on that regard. But that happens. And it is the cliche of particular society. And of course, they may have something, and a lot of placebo could be there, placebo effect also there, something. So we don't know. But obviously, the functional food is functional food. In Japan, it started with Japan, this functional food, and is a preventive. But in India, it is mostly as therapeutic, Ayurvedic or whatever it is. It is not as such as functional food. So a definition may be changed, but at the end of the day, it is as simple as it is. That what you are producing, it does not have the toxicants. It does not have. It is coming from the food, and it is isolated from the food. It has shown pathway mechanistic and how it works, and the whole body physiology, how it is affecting. If it is there, how do you define? It doesn't matter. And if you have a data with human trial and real data, then people will accept it. It doesn't matter whether you take a blue or red, or whatever. But if the data is not there, statistic is lousy, and the volunteer choice is lousy, and volunteer compliance is not there, so there will be no story.
There's one more question. Way of consumption of functional food on daily basis as preventive measure and for therapeutic measure. What is the difference?
Okay, the functional food as a preventive measure, you can say, for example, you take omega-3 fatty acid daily, or if you take orange every day, then you have a proper load of antioxidant or omega-3 for different signaling molecules in the brain, platelet, etc., then you are quite all right. But when it comes to the therapeutic situation, like lowering triglyceride, then you have to take a lot of omega-3, 2 grams, then you can reduce triglyceride level, etc. And there is some other situation, but a lot of research still coming, therapeutic use of functional food. Say, for example, epileptic patient, the oil is called, what is that? This keto diet and things like that. It could be therapeutic, but it cannot use long every day, but it can be used as therapeutic for epileptic patient. So there are instances where you can use functional food. Then it becomes, of course, medical food. There is a different definition. But in terms of preventive, I think functional food you can use. We are using it, yeah.
There's one more question. According to FSSI, we can use 3 functional food to develop food product. Is it still the same or it has changed to more than 3?
I think at the moment, I'm not so sure. I gave a last year lecture to them. So it is still the same. I think one is 13.1, 13.5, and other is a brain baby development, and other is a medical food. I think they remain the same. But the most important is this, that as I mentioned, for functional food for 13.5 category, you have to make sure all your data done with the healthy, so-called healthy volunteers.
Okay. There's one more question. What are the effects of refrigeration of functional foods?
Oh, that is you have to be, refrigeration allowed to have a low oxidation. So in a way, it could be beneficial. But for functional food, one has to do toxicological studies, keeping this food in the normal temperature to see the effect of environment. Because the functional food is delivered, say, produced here, delivered to Australia, so it is going to the flight and is maybe landing in Middle East and others, so the different temperature can be there. So you have to make sure that you have the data that it does not affect the temperature, humidity, etc.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us with the world of wisdom. And we got to know a lot about functional food and how it is developed. Because in India, there's not much knowledge about functional foods. We are right now into a stage that we are researching about what is functional food. So thank you so
The
much.
problem is India, it has been dictated by the celebrities. No idea about it, but we don't have it in Europe or America. It is done by scientists and those who are in the business, not by celebrities. That is a stupid thing to do.
And right now, we are into the research of, as Asna ma'am said, she's also a she's also a professor of Department of Food Science and Nutrition. She also enlightened us what research is going on right now in India related to nutraceuticals. So thank you, Asna ma'am. And thank you so much, Asim sir, to get connected with us. So we'd like to know about your other patent also next time. If
you can find out from Wikipedia or Google.
Yes, sir.
Website. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll share with sir's website with you all. Yeah.
And also Wikipedia has some.
Sir has Wikipedia also. You can just search Asim K. Datta Roy.
Or a patent, a worldwide patent, and they have something.
Yes.
Okay, then thank you very much. It was a long day. Thank you again for inviting me. And
thank you
if
so
anybody
much.
Any questions, they can send me email.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Can we put your email ID or I'll email you from our side?
No, you can put in my email ID. No problem. It is my office. Website has university everywhere. My email is there, so no problem.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes. And I thank all the supporters and sponsors for the event who have supported us for all the sessions. And I thank Swayam Shakti who has mentored us till the last moment. So thank you, Swayam Shakti. And we are going to come up with other new sessions. One is going to be a telephonic interview, how to crack a telephonic interview. So guys, please stay connected with us. We'll be sharing with you the flyers of it. And we also have Nitin Gadkari coming on with our platform with Swayam Shakti. So we'll be sharing the flyers for the same. So please stay connected with us for the other two sessions also, which is coming on the 6th of November and the 5th of November. Thank you so much, guys. And I'll be sharing Sir's email ID right now. Yeah. I have shared Sir's email ID. So if you have any doubts related to functional food development and nutraceuticals, you can email Sir. And we are going to start with e-magazine from January. So if anyone has interest in writing articles related to food and nutritional science, they can please email us at our Gmail ID, which again I'll be our email ID is also been given on the chat box. It is healthospect5@gmail.com. You can send us the articles and we'll respond to you accordingly. We even are starting with the blog channel from in our website where you can publish your blogs related to topics. Just suggest you can email us your topic and we can publish your blogs there and we can post them. And for the two upcoming events, I'll be just sharing with you all on please stay connected with us and please follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook and on Instagram because we'll be sharing flyers there. So please stay updated. You'll be updated there about our upcoming sessions and our upcoming speakers related to the topics. Our upcoming speaker, keynote speaker, which will be on 21st of November, which will be after Diwali, is Dr. Krishnapura Srinivasan. He is a chief scientist at Central Food Technology Research Institute, the CFTRI, and he was a head of biochemistry department. He'll be talking about the role of spices with related to the health perspective. So please stay connected with us. On the 21st of November, we'll be sharing the flyer with you for the same. You will receive the e-certificates by day after tomorrow or maximum by, on Tuesday. No, we don't have Snapchat. We only are connected on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So you can follow us on those 3 pages and you'll get updates related to the health aspect. And again, if anyone wants to post their blogs on our channel, on our website, they can. They are free to just email us on healthospect5@gmail.com. And if you all need the link for our Healthospect Facebook and Instagram link, I'm just sending you all. And with LinkedIn, you have to follow our LinkedIn page, which is on the name of Healthospect. So thank you guys, and stay connected with us for other sessions and events.